All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us. By the way, quickly, a reminder, tomorrow Rick Pitino will be joining the show. So that will be very interesting.
Who?
That's right, Rick Pitino himself. He'll be joining us tomorrow on the show. But, it is Wednesday, folks. So what does that mean? That means it's time to get in the ring with our man, Michael Avenatti, who joins us right now live on the line. Boy, we do have a lot to talk about today. Michael, how you doing?
Gents, it's like we say that every week.
Yeah, it's true.
We probably do say that every week.
It's true. We do have a lot to talk about. You've been a little active on your Twitter account today, so we've taken a lot of calls in the first hour. We really haven't even gotten to the Epstein, Alex Acosta stuff, but I want to start with Megan Rapinoe, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about this stuff because she's a very outspoken woman, and she goes on Anderson Cooper last night. You've been on Anderson Cooper a number of times. I think he does a very good job. And she says that she only wants to go to Washington basically to talk to people that agree with her. And my response to that is, well, you're not going to get anything done. You're not going to change any minds by doing that. And I understand she hates Donald Trump. A lot of people do. I get that. But don't you think she's doing a little bit of a disservice by not talking to people or not being willing to talk to people in Washington that disagree with some of her opinions?
Well, I mean, here's my view. First of all, I think the job that she and the rest of the team did is absolutely amazing, and we ought to celebrate her and we ought to celebrate the rest of the team. I really like her. I like the fact that she speaks her mind. She's not afraid to call people out on their BS. I like the fact that she's opinionated and she's a fighter. All those things appeal to me on a personal level. I also think that if she doesn't want to go to the White House, and if the rest of the team doesn't want to go to the White House, they have every right to turn the White House down and decide they don't want to go for whatever reason they deem fit or they see fit, frankly. Now, as it relates to, I do think, though, that she ought to go on Tucker Carlson, for instance. I think she ought to go on Fox. I mean, I've always been a big proponent of that. A lot of people, I caught a lot of heat last year when I went on his show and also made myself available for Sean Hannity and others. But my opinion has always been that, you can't call yourself a fighter and can't really stand on principle and espouse certain positions unless you're willing to go into the belly of the beast. And I think that she should do it, and I think it'd be very effective. I mean, frankly, I don't think that Tucker and Sean Hannity and others would have her on because, I mean, these are some of the biggest cowards on television, and they really don't want to give anyone airtime that might actually make some sense and might show them up, actually, on their own show.
And listen, I agree with you. You make a very valid point there, and I say this all the time. I think a lot of Democrats, even somebody like Kamala Harris, for example, who's got a lot of momentum, I think she should go on Fox News, just as I think many of the Republicans that are maybe scared to go on MSNBC, CNN should do more of that because I think it's good for our political discourse, and I could not agree with you more, and I know that you have never been afraid of going on any of those shows, and I appreciate that. JD, you wanted to jump in here? Go ahead.
I was going to ask if you thought that she actually would be able to handle herself well on a show like that, Michael.
Oh, I think she would. I mean, I absolutely 100%. I mean, I think she'd be great. I think, again, it's a very low likelihood that they would have her on for that reason. I mean, the problem from their perspective, and it's the same reason why they won't have me on. And, for your Republican listeners, they'll say, well, you were on Tucker. Well, yeah, I was on Tucker one time, and the guy has done another 15 segments about me and refuses to have me on his show, and there's a reason for that.
I mean, can't you charge him for that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I should have, but the fact of the matter is that they don't want to have. It's a lot easier for them to take shots at people in their absence. They actually don't want to have a robust debate, and if they thought they could have me on and embarrass me, make me look like a fool, mock me, etc., they would do it in a heartbeat. And they would take me out. And it's the same thing with her. I don't think there's any chance in hell they're going to invite her on any of those shows.
Probably not, and I agree with that. By the way, for just joining us, we're speaking with Michael Avenatti. He has agreed to take some phone calls at the bottom of the hour, so stay tuned for that. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this Alex Acosta press conference first. I want to get your opinions. I thought he made himself look like a complete clown today. Talk to me about what you make of this story, what you make of the press conference, and then I know you've been very outspoken, particularly on social media today, in regards to Democrats and their lack of action. But before we get to that, what do you make of this story? What do you make of the Acosta press conference today?
Well, I've been involved in connection with the Epstein matter for months now by way of some clients of mine, and that hasn't been widely reported because we've been taking a pretty low-key approach. So I happen to know a lot about what's going on here. I also happen to know a number of the other players involved from, some
Michael,
attorneys
I'm sorry to cut you. I'm sorry to cut you off, but what can you? So you're telling me, what can you say about this? You're representing some clients that are claiming that they were perhaps sexually abused or raped or from Jeffrey Epstein. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's correct. And I mean, I think I had announced that 5-6 months ago. And, it's the same thing with the R. Kelly situation. I mean, we've been taking a very low-key approach, behind-the-scenes approach. We do all kinds of things that we don't necessarily advertise and publicize. But, I can't say a lot about it, but let me touch on the current Acosta situation.
Sure. Yep.
So first of all, I think that the most recent prosecution out of SDNY, while admirable, should not take focus away from Acosta's role and the role of others 10 years ago when they let this guy off the hook. And I do think he should resign. I don't think he will resign because it's keeping with, and I tweeted about this earlier, look, Trump does not apologize for anything. And the approach of the administration, and it's brilliant because it's working. They do whatever the hell they want to do. They don't apologize for anything. If anything, they double down. They deflect if necessary. They create their own narrative, and they get away with it. And, I mean, we've seen this time and time again, and the reason why they're able to do this is because the Democratic leadership is weak, and they're not doing what needs to be done to hold this president accountable, period. They're just not. And all these people turned out in the polls back in November to turn the House blue, and a lot of people had a lot of hope and promise relating to the Democratic leadership, and they have failed, and they have failed miserably. And Trump and the Republicans are laughing at the Democratic leadership because when push comes to shove, they don't want confrontation, and they're not willing to do the important things that need to be done. It's just that simple.
What do you think?
The Republicans are fighters, and a lot of people like that.
They are.
A lot of voters like the fact that even though they don't necessarily agree with some of these policies and positions, they know that these guys will go to the mat. You can say a lot of things about Mitch McConnell.
Yeah.
I am no fan by any stretch of the imagination, okay?
Yeah, neither am I.
But look, strategically, the guy's brilliant, and the guy is a fighter, and he'll go to the mat, period. And he doesn't give a shit.
So let me ask you.
He just doesn't.
Let me ask you this, Michael. If you're Nancy Pelosi right now, in regards to this specific situation with Alex Acosta, what would you do differently?
Well, I'd be going on every possible media outlet demanding his resignation. I'd be holding press conferences. I would be serving subpoenas. I'd be holding people in contempt if they did not adhere to the subpoenas. All of these tweets and these letters and all this other BS.
Yeah.
Look, Trump and these guys, they're laughing at the Democratic leadership. They're absolutely laughing. Mm-hmm. These guys will continue to do whatever they want. They're not going to do the right thing for the sake of doing the right thing. They're going to do whatever the hell they want until somebody stops them.
I do like your sarcasm a little bit. I'm going to read one of your tweets today because I thought it was kind of funny and true at the same time. You said, quote, "If Acosta does not resign, look out because the Democratic leadership is ready to tweet and send letters at a moment's notice. Yep, no fear. Tweets and letters. Trump and the Republicans have figured out they can do whatever they want because the Dems have no guts and don't know how to work the media."
Well, I'm sure the letters will be very harshly worded, which is important. I want to go back to the Epstein situation. Are you familiar with Brian Singer and what happened with the director from California and his situation?
Refresh my recollection. I don't think I'm familiar.
Brian Singer and a couple of other directors or members in Hollywood had a very similar cult type of sex cult situation with young boys instead of young women. My question is, do you think that anybody, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, anybody major in power right now will be in some way connected or implicated with the Jeffrey Epstein case?
Oh, I don't think there's any question. I don't think there's any question, and I don't know who the players are that will be implicated. I know some things that have been reported, some rumors out there. I mean, frankly, I don't care whether they're a Democrat or Republican. Anyone involved with this should be held accountable.
Absolutely.
Period. I don't care. I don't care who they are. I don't care what their service in the past has been. It doesn't matter from my perspective.
Well,
I don't think any of this should be swept under the rug.
Mm-hmm.
I think whoever the names of the individuals are that engaged in this conduct should be held accountable. People should name names. We should see the pictures. We should know the truth, regardless of who's involved.
Michael,
and I don't care how high it goes.
Michael, I think somebody was paid off. This is obviously this guy Epstein. Say what you want. We all know the scumbag he is, and he belongs behind bars. Guy with a lot of money, a lot of power. Money is power. I believe that there had to be something that exchanged hands. Something had to happen over a decade ago. There has to be a reason, right, Michael, why Alex Acosta decided to give this guy this light sentence, right? There has to be a reason. It couldn't have just been, hey, can you do my client a favor? Look, Michael, you've been a very successful attorney for a very long time, and you're a very smart guy. What do you think happened here? Why do you think Alex Acosta gave this guy this sweet deal of what they're saying, a deal of a lifetime?
Well, I don't know exactly, but I agree with you. Look, there's nobody on, none of the three of us could have ever got this deal. And 99.9% of people in America could have never got this deal. I mean, this is really unheard of. And you talk to people that are criminal practitioners for decades. I mean, they've never seen a deal like this before. So, look, I think that there are other shoes to drop. I certainly hope that people are not going to cover up other people that were involved in this. And look, let me just say this. Nobody keeps their porn stash in a safe.
Except maybe Tucker Carlson.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The items recovered from that safe.
That's true.
In that safe for one reason and one reason only.
That's true.
Because they were valuable. Okay?
You're right.
Because they were valuable. And they implicate, I know this in my gut, in my heart of hearts, based on almost 20 years of practicing law and seeing a lot of evidence in a lot of different contexts, gentlemen. I'm
You're
telling
right.
you.
No, you're right.
Whatever was in that safe was valuable to Epstein, and I can assure you that it implicates other people. Now, whoever those people are need to be held to account,
Mm-hmm.
and we should know the names, and we should know them quickly. Whoever they are.
You know what's amazing, Michael, and I agree with you, by the way, is that, Donald Trump will call NFL players kneeling sons of bitches. But when it comes to this guy, Jeffrey Epstein, who, by the way, he's praised in the past, who's actually bragged about Epstein liking young women. Donald Trump has said that on the record, not when he was president, but he said that. Have you heard Donald Trump say anything even close to calling Epstein a son of a bitch? Have you heard him? He doesn't said anything like that. If you disagree with Donald Trump, he'll attack you and call you names. This is a guy that is a known pedophile that has all in likelihood raped young girls, underage girls and women. But you don't hear Donald Trump taking the offensive on this. Why is that, Michael?
Well, it's certainly an interesting question. I mean, here's a man that had a relationship with Epstein. The duration is, I guess, in dispute. Trump now claims that he had a falling out with him and he hasn't communicated with him in 15 years or more. That's what he claims now, although he's claimed a lot of things. But, again, I don't know if this reaches the president or not. I don't know if it reaches Bill Clinton. I don't know if it reaches Prince Andrew, or at least to the extent that it reaches Prince Andrew. But evidently there's some pretty powerful people that were running around with this guy. And, again, he's not keeping these CDs and whatever was in that safe, he considered to be valuable. He considered, in my view, and this is only speculation, but I'll bet you I'm right about this, he considered whatever was in that safe to be his get-out-of-jail-free card. And, I just hope that there is not an attempt to protect additional powerful people in connection with this, period.
In all fairness, Trump did ban him from Mar-a-Lago. So we're going to switch up a little bit.
I don't think that's enough. Yeah.
So Donald Trump is now banned from blocking people on Twitter that disagree with him And Ocasio-Cortez has now been sued for the exact same thing.
For a Republican and a Democrat suing her, yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I agree with the court's decision, and I agree that she should not be blocking people on Twitter. And by the way, for all the people that are listening that are calling me a hypocrite because I block people on Twitter, when and if I ever become the president of the United States, I can guarantee you that I will unblock everybody. How about that? Until then, I reserve the right to block all of the asshats for their comments on Twitter that are absolutely outrageous and over the line.
Michael, you're going to have about 1 million more followers if you become president.
Not only that, it's going to take you 2 weeks to unblock everybody.
Yeah, that would take a long time.
Guys, I'm not going to hold my breath and sweat the details on that one. Okay? I'm not worried about. I'm not going to worry about.
I'm a little surprised though.
When I become president,
Michael, I'm a little surprised to hear you say that because I disagree with you a little bit on this. I think that if you own a Twitter account, you should be allowed to block whoever you want to. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just like if you own a car, you should be allowed to allow someone to go into your car anytime, or not go into your car if you don't want them in your car or your home. I feel the same way about Twitter. You own the account. You should be allowed to do whatever you want as far as people following you or not. I mean, that's kind of my way of thinking. Do you disagree with that?
Well, I disagree with it if you are a public official.
Okay.
Because I think that and again, it's only if you're a public official, because I think there's a different set of rules that go along with being a public official. Now, with that said, and I've said this in the past, there's got to be a lot of changes that need to be made to Twitter, frankly.
Right.
I mean, I don't believe that there should be anonymous accounts, for instance. I think that every account should be verified to a cell phone number or some mechanism. People should not be able to have 5 or 6 accounts. The Russians should not be able to have these bot farms that they have where they infiltrate social media with all of these bogus accounts. The estimates, I think I've mentioned this on the show in the past. I mean, the estimates are that, upwards of 50 or 60% of the accounts on Twitter may be completely bogus. Mm-hmm. So, Twitter needs to do their part in policing this because it's become an absolute cesspool.
No, and you're right, and I don't disagree with that. I think that's fair. If you're a public official, it's very different than if it's it's myself or anybody else.
Well, if you are a public official and there's a verified account and someone is writing you, and what would separate that from writing your congressperson? Nothing.
No, that's true.
But only if every account is verified. I 100% agree. But you should be able to block any anonymous account, especially a radical anonymous account out there.
And that's what Michael's trying to say. Right. And I agree with both of you on that. Okay, Michael, not switching topics here. Let's continue this social media conversation. Have you heard this story? Donald Trump is inviting a bunch of right-wing extremists, some of the right-wing media's biggest stars, at the White House tomorrow for what will likely be a forum for claims of anti-conservative social media bias. What do you make of this?
I mean, I think it's nonsense. I think it's bogus. I haven't seen any evidence. I recall that about a week or two ago, he claimed that people were having a difficult time following him on Twitter. I know of no evidence of that. I mean, how difficult is it to follow him on Twitter? You click on his account, you hit follow.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if there's anybody out there who has gone to his account and clicked follow and has received a notice unable to follow him. Please call in because we'd like to hear from you.
Well,
I think that'd be the only instance. I don't understand how difficult. I mean, maybe some of his supporters are too stupid to figure out how to follow somebody on Twitter. I don't know.
No, I thought they had to pass a 10-question questionnaire that just popped up, a random survey that just started last week. But
it's just ridiculous. No, you're right. It's insane. I mean, what do you think?
He's got 60 million. He's got 60 million plus followers on Twitter. I mean, I don't know. I think that's a hell of a base on social media.
That's pretty good.
Complaining.
I mean, it would be 1/5 of the country if they were all citizens of the United States.
I do want to read one of your tweets in regards to Donald Trump. I did get a little kick out of this. You tweeted Trump's strategy. Number 1, do what I want. Number 2, apologize for nothing. Number 3, deflect, double down, create my own narrative as necessary. Number 4, drive the media through new outrageousness. And number 5, get away with it all because the Dems are weak, afraid of confrontation, and ultimately will cave. I thought that was I thought that was the tweet of the day. If you want to talk about that a little bit.
Well, I appreciate that, but I believe it, and I think it's difficult to argue against it. I mean, look. And he's not going to change, gentlemen. And why should he change? I mean, their strategy, again, let's take a step back and think about the strategy that he has implemented and what he's been able to get away with. It's really remarkable. I mean, it's brilliant if you really think about it. And too often we get too tied up in, the latest controversy, and not enough Democrats take a step back and really have an appreciation for what this guy has done from a strategic perspective. And you need to have that appreciation if you're going to beat him, because the strategy that I laid out in that tweet is exactly what they've implemented. And look at all the scandals of the last 2.5 years. And this guy has been able to weather each and every one of them thus far. And we keep thinking it's going to be the next, it's the next scandal and the next scandal and the next scandal. And guess what? It's not. And, I was thinking earlier this evening, do you remember in 2016 when the Obama administration and the Democrats did not push McConnell for an up-down vote on Garland?
Yes.
Because they assumed that Hillary was going to win. And I have some very choice words
that was
about what happened
big mistake.
in connection with that.
That was a big mistake.
Critical mistake, and
yep.
we could have a whole show about what I think they should have done someday. But you know what? History is repeating itself. Here we are in 2019. And guess what? Nancy Pelosi and the leadership of the Democrats are not pressing forward with impeachment charges. Why? Because they're so convinced that this guy's going to lose in 2020. Well, guess what? I'm not convinced that he's going to lose in 2020. I'm very concerned that he's going to get reelected in 2020. And they, again, are making the same mistake. They are assuming that this guy is going to get beat in 2020, and therefore it's not worth it for them to pursue impeachment charges right now. And that is a critical mistake in my view.
I agree. So we're going to take some calls. If you're just joining us, we got Michael Avenatti on the line. He's agreed to take some calls coming up at the bottom of the hour. But before we take our first break, and then on the other side of the break, we'll take some calls at 257-5396. Michael, for people that obviously care about you, they want you to succeed. They actually want you to run for president. And for the people out there that support you, can you give us a little bit of an update on your personal dealings? Anything at all you can tell us? Because obviously there are people out there, there are people out there that quite frankly, they want you to go to jail. There's a lot of people out there that do not like you for a lot of ridiculous reasons, but there are also a lot of people out there that I talk to every day that support you a great deal, and they want to know how you're doing. I know you had some, you were in court on Monday. Can you give us any type of update on your personal dealings and just give us an update on what's going on?
Well, first of all, let me say that 90% of the people that that want to see me incarcerated and want to wish me ill and attack me on Twitter, you know why that is? Because I'm effective. That's why. And
True.
And if I was on their team, they'd be my biggest supporter. They don't like the fact that I take it to the right and I take it to Trump, and tough shit.
No question.
That's not going to change.
No question.
So if I wasn't effective, it wouldn't be happening. So that's number one. Number two, as it relates to these cases, the first case is set for trial in November. It's the case relating to the alleged extortion of Nike, which is ridiculous. And we're going to try that case in front of a jury in New York. And I'm highly confident that once all of the relevant evidence comes in and a jury hears the truth about what transpired there, that I'm going to be exonerated. And we're going to take these cases one at a time. And I'm going to deal with this no different than I would on behalf of any client of mine over the last 20 years. And I'm highly confident that once people see what really happened here and they hear all of the relevant facts and the evidence, that I'm going to come out on the other end of this.
All right. Fair enough, Michael. Obviously, we just want to get updates from you because we want to know how you're doing. And it sounds like you're going to do fine. And I think everything will turn out well, and then egg in the face for all the people there on the right, the haters out there.
It's going to be a lot of egg in the face, in my opinion.
Yes, I think everything will be just fine, and I appreciate that update, Michael. Okay, so here's what I want to do. I want to take a quick break, Michael, and then when we come back, we'll take some calls. Sound good?
Yeah, it sounds good. And look, if Jacob Wall is listening from his mother's basement, Jacob, don't call in. We're not going to take your call. So don't waste, your mother's dime on calling in, okay? Just don't do it.
Well, isn't his father an attorney? It's more of his father's dime, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know whose dime it is, except we know it's not Jacob's dime. That we do know.
That's true.
That is a fact.
He's accomplished about as much as Meghan McCain. All right, here's what we'll do. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll take your calls. Michael Avenatti will be joining us in the next segment as well. Get in the ring with him. Give us a buzz, 702 257-5396. Again, if you want to join the conversation with Michael Avenatti, he will be taking your questions, comments, 702-257-5396. Now is the time to call. We have a few phone lines open. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN. All right, welcome back. It is The Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us. It's time to get in the ring with Michael Avenatti. Phone lines open at 257-5396. Also, a quick reminder, tomorrow we will be joined by Rick Pitino. He's not doing a lot of interviews these days, so a lot of questions to ask him. And we will also ask him about this Nike scandal. We'll ask him about that. We'll get into a lot of other things. But right now, as I mentioned, Michael Avenatti is with us on the line. We are taking your calls at 257-5396. And let's get right after it. Let's go to Josh. Josh is our first caller. You're on with Michael. Go ahead, Josh.
Hey, Michael. I've seen a lot of your interviews, and I don't see you ever talk about law school. And I thought it would be interesting if you talked a little bit about how important you think a tier 1 law school is to be a successful attorney like yourself.
Go ahead, Michael.
Well, Josh, thanks. Yeah, Josh, the call and the question. I had the good fortune to go to George Washington University Law School at night. Actually, I went in the evening program because I worked full time during the day, and then I went to law school at night because I had to put myself through school. And, it was a really great fit for me. It was great to be in D.C. I had a lot of professors that I really formed excellent relationships with. And, Jonathan Turley being one of them, who's a pretty well-known professor, is on actually Fox quite a bit and other networks as a constitutional scholar. But, I don't know how important it is to necessarily go to a top law school as it is to just find the right fit. I've met a lot of great attorneys over the years, a lot of good trial lawyers, a lot of people that really know how to talk to juries and get incredible results that didn't necessarily go to, a top 25 law school. So I think it's really more about the fit. But again, I was very fortunate to have graduated from GW and consider it an honor to have that degree.
There you go. Good question, Josh. 257-5396, the number to call. Let's go to Eric. Eric, you're next. You're on with Michael Avenatti. Go.
Yeah, hey, guys. I got a question that kind of ties into the Epstein thing and the, secret tapes. You tweeted out a long time ago a CD in a vault, and then you never revealed what was on it. I was wondering if you could tell us what was on that. And also, I was wondering, Stormy blamed you when she lost her defamation suit and said it was your idea to sue Trump. Can you clear that up as well?
A couple things. First of all, I can't disclose what was on that CD. It's actually in the hands of law enforcement, and I'm precluded from talking about it, unfortunately. So that's number one. Number two, I don't think it's accurate to say that she blamed me for losing the defamation suit. First of all, that's up on appeal. We filed an appeal before I ended the professional relationship with Stormy on February 19th. And her new attorney is now pursuing the appeal that we had filed the opening brief in. I'm confident that decision is going to come back because I just think the district court judge got it wrong. I don't believe at the end of the day she's going to owe Trump or anybody else any money in connection with that case.
All right, 257-5396. Let's go to Jessica. Jessica, you're on with Michael Avenatti. Go.
Hi, Michael. I just want to say I'm glad to hear that you're doing well and okay. But I have one question. I was wondering, when is the trial date for the case in California?
So we don't have a trial date in that case yet. We're going to have another status conference in September, and the judge will set a trial date probably sometime next year.
All right, that was an easy one. 257-5396. If you want to get in a question with Michael Avenatti, I believe our next caller is JD. JD, go ahead.
What's up, JD?
Thank you. Am I on?
Yes, you are, sir. Go ahead.
Mr. Avenatti, you represented a gal named Julie Swetnick in the Kavanaugh hearings, and she made accusations, I believe, to the Senate committee under Grassley that she witnessed Kavanaugh lining up for sex like a train, and also she was verbally abused and raped. Did you or she ever file a police report on these charges against Judge Kavanaugh?
Well, here's what I'm going to say. Your recollection of what she accused him of is close, but it's not entirely accurate. In fact, and a lot of people have misstated what exactly she accused Judge Kavanaugh of, because they want to make the accusations bigger than they were, because it then fits their narrative of trying to claim that she didn't have any credibility. We not only submitted an affidavit from her under penalty of perjury, but we also submitted additional affidavits from other witnesses, none of whom were ever investigated. We demanded an FBI investigation of Julie Swetnick. We asked for them to take statements from her. We asked for the FBI and the Senate Judiciary Committee to investigate other witnesses that we provided, and they refused to investigate those witnesses. They refused to take their statements. And look, in my experience, people that are lying do not ask to meet with the FBI, because lying to the FBI is a federal offense, even if there's not an underlying criminal offense. So, again, and there's a lot of misstatements that have been made. This whole idea that we fabricated anything relating to Kavanaugh is a bunch of nonsense. It never happened. To this day, I believe Julie Swetnick. And, I hope someday there is a full investigation, because if there is a full investigation, Julie Swetnick's accusations will check out, and we have witnesses that are going to back up what she accused Judge Kavanaugh of. And look, it's not accurate to say that she knew that these gang rapes were going on for years and years, and she kept going back to the parties. That's Tucker Carlson and a bunch of other people. That's a bunch of nonsense. That's not what it said. What she said, in fact, that's not what her affidavit said. What she said, and she was clear, that she would go to these parties, she would see a group of boys basically around a room. She didn't know why they were there. She didn't really understand what was going on. These were parties with a lot of people at them, and it was only until she was later gang raped in one of these rooms that she came to understand what had been going on all this time. And she was clear about that.
257-5396. Greg, you're on with Michael Avenatti. Go.
Hey, Michael, I'm truly in awe of the vast conspiracy that's been put up against you. You've implicated the U.S. Attorney, the IRS agents, the Cal Bar, all of these different entities aligned against you and that are lying in these multiple indictments and,
Hey, Greg, you're just wrong about that, okay? First of all, you're just wrong. I've never said there's a grand conspiracy. I've never commented on any number of those individuals that you just mentioned. You just fabricated that for the purposes of your call. It has never happened. I have said that I'm going to fight these cases, that I'm looking forward to being exonerated in these cases, and I'm looking forward to the facts and the evidence that's relevant being presented to a jury in each of these cases. I've been consistent from moment one. So to the extent that you think there's some grand conspiracy, it's in your head.
Well, something tells me that last caller is a right-winger who probably supports Donald Trump. I'm just going to go out on a limb on that one. Next caller is Jimmy. Jimmy, you're on with Michael Avenatti. Go.
Hi, Jimmy here. I have a couple of questions. I was wondering, Mr. Avenatti, if you would care to comment on the allegations of a particular case where you took money from a paraplegic or quadriplegic and purchased a private jet with it?
Yeah, first of all, there's no allegation. First of all, I'm not going to comment on specific allegations because I'm not at liberty to, and I've made it clear, and that's going to continue to be my position. But here's what I will tell you. There is no allegation that I stole money from some paraplegic and purchased a jet. You're mixing and matching allegations from various cases.
I do wonder when people call up, do you put the same effect towards Republicans or the president of the United States? It does appear to me to a lot of people on social media, the haters out there, they want to ask you questions like that. But when it comes to Donald Trump, everything's just sweet and dandy and everything's just fine.
There does seem to be a bit of a double standard.
Yes. 257-5396, the number to call. Again, that number to call is 257-5396. I believe our next caller is Alan. Alan, go ahead.
Hey, Alan.
Yeah, hey, guys. I had a question for Michael. You guaranteed that Trump would be impeached or that he wouldn't serve out. You made a guarantee on public cable, I guess. Do you still stand by that guarantee?
Well, I don't know that I don't know that I guaranteed it, frankly. I said that I did not believe that he would serve.
You actually said
let me
guarantee.
just finish. Look, interrupt. I did not interrupt you. You can't interrupt me, okay? Those are the rules. So
I hung up on him. Go ahead. Go ahead, Michael. You're good.
Show each other mutual respect.
Yes.
Anyhow, I think what I said was that I did not believe that I felt strongly that he would not serve out his term. And that, look, his term's not over, number one. And number two, there's a lot of things that have transpired over the last 12 months that I don't think anybody could have anticipated. First of all, the judge in the case that we brought on behalf of Stormy Daniels did not permit us to take discovery of the president, did not permit me to put him under oath and ask him questions about what he knew relating to Michael Cohen and the like. Had that happened, I don't think he'd still be in office, frankly. But look, that was the judge's decision. I disagree with it. I think that we'd be looking at a completely different situation had the judge ruled differently than that. Also, Bob Mueller, that report, what transpired in connection with that report, what transpired in connection with the obstruction, the idea that the president has not been indicted. He's individual number one, folks. Okay, he's individual number one in the criminal indictment brought against Michael Cohen, who pled guilty and is currently serving time in a federal penitentiary for his conduct in connection with a campaign finance violation. Okay, Donald Trump should have been indicted in connection with that. He should have been indicted as a sitting president. No court has ever ruled that a sitting president cannot be indicted. Mm-hmm. So, there's that factor, and we could go on and on.
All right, next caller. Let's a lot of people getting in the ring, by the way, with Michael Avenatti. Let's go to Lee. Lee, our next. You're on with Michael. Go.
Yeah, good morning, Mike. I noticed President Trump is trying to block tweets from the public. Do you agree with this practice?
Yeah, I think we touched on that earlier. I mean, I don't agree with that practice. The court got it. I think the court got it right, and I think that if you're a public official, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or Democrat. It doesn't matter if you're ACO or Trump or anyone else. You shouldn't be blocking tweets. Now, if you're a private citizen like me or others, you have every right to block every asshat you want on Twitter.
Yes, I've done that myself plenty of times. 257-5396. I believe our next caller is Evie. Evie, you're on with Michael. Go.
Hi.
Hi, Evie. Go ahead.
Hey, Evie.
I actually tried to call 2 weeks ago during the whole fake email thing, but my break was over by the time y'all got.
I apologize. Well, you're on now, Evie. Go ahead.
So you're welcome, because I'm the one that took down and ended the fake email.
Okay. You're talking about the fake Michael Avenatti? I'm confused. Yep. What are you talking about? I'm confused.
I'm talking about the fake Avenatti emails.
Okay, good.
Not the FBI. I don't think we're ever looking into it to begin with, and not Avenatti. Me.
All right. Thank you, Evie. I don't think there was a question in there for Michael, but okay. 257-5396 is the number to call. Again, 702-257-5396.
Thank you for the good deed, Evie.
Yes. Our next caller is Tom. Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, like that guy that calls up every night. I'd like, in the same spirit of him, I'd like to say, I hope you have a good bleeping supply.
All right, goodbye, Tom. Goodbye, Tom. Tom waited on hold for 20 minutes to be an idiot. Good job, Tom. Way to go. 257-5396 is the
great work.
Number to call. Let's go to Melissa. Melissa, you're on with Michael Avenatti. Go.
Hey, Melissa.
Hi there. Michael, if you were president, would you consider legalizing cannabis?
Good question. I'm curious to hear Michael's answer on that. Go ahead, Michael.
100%, absolutely. It's something that I would do in my first year. I think it makes any sense not to have it legalized at this point. And, I think the medical benefits are pretty well established at this point. And I think in many instances, it doesn't make any sense from a resource perspective to continue to devote dollars and resources towards enforcement of illegal cannabis. It just doesn't make any sense.
Michael, why do you think it's taken so long? I mean, obviously the government wanted a piece of the pie, right? That obviously it's a money thing. Same thing with sports gambling being legalized throughout the country. It's a money situation, right? I mean, is that the easiest answer, the reason why it's taken this long?
Well, I think it's one of the answers, but I also think the other answer is a little more basic, and that is that we like in the United States this Puritan facade, right? It's this Puritan facade. There's no gambling, there's no drug use, we're so concerned about how everybody's having sex and where they're having sex and what they're doing sexually, et cetera. We have this whole, again, Puritan facade that so many of these people buy into. And, normally some of the folks that are most supportive of this Puritan facade are the people that have the skeletons in the closet.
Absolutely.
Right?
They're the most disgusting.
Many of these folks are the biggest hypocrites of this.
I totally agree with that.
They're the ones with the with the S&M chamber and the heroin needles in the basement.
And the trap door in their basement.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. And so I think that probably has a lot to do with it. Again, this whole idea, once you travel the world and you go to some of these other countries and you really talk to people and you see what they're all about, you realize how far behind in many instances culturally the United States is.
Yeah.
At least, again, the facade. Because, look, we all know what's going on behind closed doors. We know, how people are, what sexual activities people are engaged in and what drug use they're engaged in and all kinds of things, right? But we put on this facade too often in this country. And I just think it's, I think the hypocrisy, I think a lot of people, I know I am, are tired of the hypocrisy, frankly.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100% on that one. 257-5396. Let's go to Jeff. Jeff, what's going on?
Yeah, hi. I was want to talk about Trump blocking people because I know Michael has blocked a lot of people, and it's totally his right to do that. But doesn't he think that there's a hypocrisy because he's always calling for debates? And when he blocks people, doesn't that shut off debate? Or when he hangs up on the show?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't shut off debate. Here's why. Again, first of all, if I was a public official or if I was president of the United States, I wouldn't block anyone. I'd unblock everyone because I'd be respectful of the court's decision and its rationale. But I'm not president of the United States. I'm not a public official. Mm-hmm. Here's why I block 99.9% of the people that I do. Because they're disrespectful. They make personal claims against me,
right.
And they attack me personally, which has no place on it. They send me tweets about going to prison and all kinds of other nonsense. You know what? I'm not going to let you come on my feed and do that.
Exactly.
Now, if you have your 7 followers and you want to go on your feed, okay, and you want to attack me on your feed, obviously I can't block you. I'm not going to block you. You can go talk to your 7 followers or 500 followers or 3,000 followers. But let me tell you what you can't do. Here's what you can't do. You can't come on my feed with 750,000 plus followers in my audience to spew your nonsense and your bullshit. That I will not tolerate. It's just that simple.
And by the way, Jeff, at the end of that call, you made a comment about Michael hanging up on you. No, it's me. My name is Brian Shapiro, and I am hanging up on you. And the reason why I am is because you're not special. We have a gazillion people that are trying to get in and ask Michael Avenatti a question. It's not the Jeff show, okay? We have a right to hang up on whoever we want to hang up on, and you asked your question, and quite frankly, you should be grateful for that. And when Michael was talking about 7 followers, Jeff, you strike me as the person that probably has 7 followers. The number to call, 257-5396. Again, 702-257-5396. Let's go to Marie. Marie, you're on with Michael Avenatti. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. My question for Michael was, I understand that he had represented some children at the border, and I was wondering what's happening to these children who aren't represented. I know they spend days on the border in these shelters, and then they get sent to other shelters. Are these kids being adopted by American families? Does Michael have any idea what's happening with these kids?
Good question, Marie. Thank you for the call. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, no, great question, Marie. Thank you. So, over the course of the last 12 months or thereabouts, I've had occasion to reunite over 70 of these children with their parents, children that were detained at the border initially and then really shipped all over the United States. I mean, this has been a very tragic situation and something that's near and dear to my heart and to a lot of people that I work with. So thank you for asking about it. Unfortunately, the children that do not have attorneys are still in custody. It's very difficult for them to be released from custody. It's a very long process for them. And your question about being adopted, is a good one. And generally the answer is no. In fact, this situation is so bad that if there is a child that is in custody in one of these detention centers, and I want you to think about this for a minute. If there is a child in custody at one of these detention centers, and that child has a relative in the United States, legally in the United States, a citizen or someone with a green card, and that individual wants to have that child come and live with them, even on a temporary basis, while that child's asylum claim is determined, Trump's administration will not allow that to happen. Trump's administration would rather that child be in those substandard conditions in one of these detention centers on your dime, your taxpayer dime, than as opposed to have that child with someone that cares about that child and will front the cost for taking care of that child. And I mean, think about that. That's
incredible.
Absurd. And it's perverse.
And you've represented so many of these kids.
That's pretty disgusting.
Yeah, and you haven't gotten any money. You've done this free of charge, and I think that should be known. And I wanted to bring up this story. We only have a few more minutes, Michael. Did you see the testimony from this Guatemalan mother? Brought Ocasio-Cortez to tears. Powerful testimony. She loses her 19-month-old daughter in May of 2018. What did you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tragic case. It's a tragic case, but unfortunately, it's not an isolated case. And look, you can make whatever argument you want about whether the parents should have brought these children to the United States and what are they doing and they're substandard parents, and you can make all those arguments. Okay, we could have a debate about that. But look, these are innocent kids. Okay, they didn't make the decision to come to the United States. They didn't look at the laws on the books of the United States and decide, you know what, screw it, we're gonna go anyway. They were along for the ride in many instances. These kids didn't come here to do us harm. They came here because their parents told them they were coming to the United States, and they probably dreamt of a better life. We got to figure out a way to take care of these kids. They don't deserve that.
Michael, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it as always, and we really look forward to catching you next week, as I'm sure many more callers will want to get in the ring with you. We had plenty of them today. Michael, thank you so much for joining us, man. Really appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
All right. Always a good time. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you
Thanks
very
a lot,
much.
Michael.
And before we go, I also want to promote the fact that we have Rick Pitino coming on the show tomorrow, JD. I know this is going to be a lot of fun. Rick Pitino does not do a lot of interviews, so it's certainly going to be interesting. Give out that information, JD, real quick. How could people follow us?
Twitter, The Vegas Take, Facebook, The Vegas Take, YouTube, The Vegas Take, website, tvtradio.com, and Instagram, Vegas Take Radio.
All right. Our thanks to Michael Avenatti for joining us. We'll catch you same time, same place tomorrow. Ken Thompson coming up next.